Radiant strength rising from silent shadows that once held you down is the kind of force the world rarely sees and even fewer understand. Power is born in the places where hope was almost gone, yet still whispered inside your chest, refusing to give up on you. There comes a moment when the truth that was buried under years of quiet suffering finally breaks the surface, and when it does not arrive softly. It arrives like a storm, carrying every echo of every moment you endured. Someone finally confessed what they did to you, and the air itself feels heavier now, because the darkness that was once yours alone to carry is suddenly visible to everyone. The ground beneath your life trembles with the weight of revelation. You feel the world shift, because now the truth stands louder than the silence ever could. Before we travel deeper into this moment, take a breath with me and listen closely, because this matters. If you feel these words, if they awaken something fierce and honest inside your heart, let your support be part of this journey. Subscribe to stay close to this fire, like the video if its truth resonates with your own, and share your thoughts in the comments, because your voice deserves to be heard. Your presence is not just welcome here, it is needed. Now everything feels different, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because the truth that was once hidden behind your pain now walks freely in the open, and the ones who doubted your story can no longer look away. The confession has changed the air. The people around you feel the weight too. They cannot sleep, because the truth unsettles the soul when it arrives without warning. It shatters illusions. It disrupts the comfort of those who pretended not to know. It forces eyes open that were once closed by choice. For them, it is discomfort. For you, it is justice. A justice that does not erase what happened, but gives meaning to the endurance you carried through every silent night. You remember how long you waited for this moment, how many times you wondered if the truth would ever rise, or if you would be left carrying the burden forever, how you tried to steady your voice in rooms where no one wanted to hear you, how you walked through days that felt endlessly heavy because your truth was invisible to everyone but you. And now suddenly, it is out in the open. The confession sits like a flame in the center of every conversation. Their words finally revealed what your heart held for so long. And even though the world shakes from the impact, your soul stands steadier than ever, because this is not a collapse. This is a beginning. There is a strange, quiet courage growing inside you now, the kind that comes not from revenge, not from anger, but from clarity. You do not need to raise your voice, because the truth speaks with a resonance that no force can silence. You do not need to seek validation, because the confession itself has drawn the line clearer than you ever needed to. You do not need to carry fear, because what once hid in darkness now lies uncovered, exposed, revealed in a way that makes it powerless. No one can turn away from what has now been spoken aloud. No one can pretend it did not happen. No one can rewrite the story, because the truth has already carved itself into the open. Some people cannot sleep now, not because of you, but because of what they allowed. They feel the weight of their own silence pressing against their hearts. They remember the moments they dismissed your pain, the times they turned away, the excuses they made, because it was easier than listening. Your courage forces them to confront the choices they made. They cannot hide behind ignorance anymore. They cannot pretend they did not know. They cannot pretend they were not part of the silence that kept you suffering. But this story is no longer about them. This story is about you reclaiming every piece of strength that was taken broken or forgotten. There is something deeply powerful about truth, spoken late. Something almost cosmic. It arrives with an energy that sweeps through every hidden corner of your memory, removing dust from moments you thought you had to bury. It gives you permission to breathe in a way you never let yourself before. It allows you to step forward without apologizing for carrying scars that were never your fault. You learned how to survive inside the darkness, and now you learn how to rise beyond it. Even the shadows feel different now. They no longer belong to fear. They belong to the person you have become, someone forged from quiet resilience, unmistakable clarity, and unshakable inner strength. As people around you try to process the confession, they struggle to find sleep because truth demands more than awareness. It demands accountability. And accountability is never comfortable. It shakes those who once stood still. It ignites reflection in those who once ignored. It awakens the conscience of those who once remained silent. But for you, it brings an unexpected calm, a stillness that comes only from knowing you were never wrong to speak, never wrong to feel, never wrong to remember. You held your truth with grace while the world was not ready to hear it. Now, the world does not have a choice. This moment is not an ending. It is a turning of the page into a chapter where you no longer move from pain, but from purpose. A chapter where your strength is no longer hidden, but recognized even by those who once doubted it. A chapter where you rise not out of vengeance, but out of growth, where everything that once tried to break you becomes fuel for your forward motion. The confession was not the closure. Your healing is, and healing does not ask for permission to begin. It starts the moment you decide to no longer carry the weight that was never yours in the first place. You can feel it now, the shift inside your chest, a quiet fire burning steady. It is not rage. It is not revenge. It is validation. It is liberation. It is the moment your spirit whispers, finally. Finally, someone spoke the words the world needed to hear. Finally, the truth steps forward. Finally, the shadows lose their power. Finally, you can breathe without feeling the edges of your past pressing against your heart. The truth is out, and the world is awake, and even if they cannot sleep, you can. And now the night feels different around you. For so long, the darkness felt like a place where you were forced to hide your pain. But now, it feels like a cloak of clarity wrapping around your shoulders with purpose. The confession has shifted the weight of the night itself. You are no longer the one lying awake, wondering if the world will ever see your truth. Now, others lie awake, wrestling with what they ignored, what they dismissed, and what they refused to confront. You walk through this changing world with a quiet sense of knowing that the storm which once raged inside you has now moved outward, forcing others to face what you endured in silence. This reversal is not vengeance. It is the natural order finally balancing itself, a balance you waited years to feel. You begin to notice how people look at you now. Their eyes carry a mixture of respect and regret. They recognize something unbreakable in you, something they overlooked when you were fighting just to stay standing. Some of them approach you carefully with a softness that was missing before, as if your story suddenly gives them permission to see their own shadows more clearly. Others avoid your gaze because the truth reflected in your strength reminds them of the moments they stayed quiet when you needed them the most. And you stand there, not with bitterness, but with a calm understanding that every person reacts according to their own courage or lack of it. You no longer carry responsibility for their choices. What mattered most finally rose to the surface. You were right to survive. You were right to hold on. You were right to trust that even if the world refused to acknowledge your truth, time would one day demand it. And here it is. This moment, raw, heavy, unshakable. A moment that does not erase your past, but elevates your future. You begin to feel a sense of power, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stands anchored, even when the ground trembles. a power formed from endurance, from inner battles fought alone, and from courage you did not even know you possessed at the time. Now there is a new silence around you, but it is not the silence of being unheard. It is the silence of people finally realizing the depth of what you lived through. A silence filled with recognition. A silence filled with accountability. A silence filled with the echo of truth, settling into every corner of your story. They cannot unhear the confession. They cannot pretend the truth was never spoken. It lingers in the spaces between every conversation, every glance, every whispered apology that comes too late. That silence is no longer your burden. It is their awakening. As you move through this new landscape, you realize something profound. The truth did not simply expose what was done to you. It exposed who you had to become in response. You became someone resilient, someone intuitive, someone who learned to read emotion in the quietest moments, someone who knows how to rise even when no one believes in your wings, someone who stands tall even in places where shadows gather thick around the heart. You are the proof that survival is not just endurance, it is transformation. You begin to see your past not as a chain, but as a foundation. Each difficult moment, each long night, each tear carried strength in disguise. You did not understand it back then, but every hardship planted seeds that are now growing into wisdom. The confession was the sunlight that reached those seeds at last, and now the roots of who you are stretch deeper than ever. You are grounded, steady, awake. You understand now that the truth does not set you free by erasing the pain. It sets you free by making the pain meaningful. And even though those who once doubted you now struggle to rest at night, you finally feel the possibility of peaceful sleep. The kind of sleep that comes from knowing the weight is no longer on your shoulders alone. The confession shifted the burden. The world now carries a piece of what once crushed you. You do not celebrate their restlessness, but you also do not apologize for it. You simply exhale, letting the years of quiet suffering release into the air like a final breath you no longer need to hold. This new chapter in your life does not begin with loud declarations or dramatic endings. It begins with the simple knowing deep inside your chest. You survived. You kept going when everything inside you whispered that it would be easier to stop. But you didn't. You kept standing, kept breathing, kept believing in a truth that the world could not yet see. And now the world can see it. The confession illuminated everything. It revealed the strength you carried, the courage you cultivated, the heart you protected, and the resilience you grew in silence. You may find yourself feeling emotions you cannot quite name. Relief mixed with sadness, validation mixed with memory, strength mixed with the soft ache of what you endured. It is all right to feel all of it at once. Truth does not simplify the heart, it amplifies it. It awakens corners of your soul that were once dim. It invites healing to step forward, even if it arrives slowly, even if it arrives quietly. Do not rush it. Healing is not a race, it is a gentle reclaiming of yourself piece by piece, day by day. But there is one emotion that will slowly rise above all the others: pride. Not pride in what happened, pride in who you became because of it. Pride in the courage you carried, pride in the strength you built, pride in the truth that finally stands tall beside you. This pride is not loud or arrogant. It is grounded, steady, a warmth in your chest that feels like the beginning of a sunrise after a long, unseen night. And the world around you will continue to shift. Some people will try to rewrite their role in your story. Some will try to explain their silence. Some will pretend they always believed you, but you no longer need their stories to align with yours. You do not need them to rewrite the past because you have accepted it. You have grown beyond it. Their words no longer carry the power to shape your identity. Your story belongs to you now more than ever. And as the days move forward, you begin to see how deeply the truth has shifted the world around you. The confession did more than reveal what happened. It exposed the layers of quiet strength you had been building in the dark. People who once overlooked your pain now study your resilience with a mixture of awe and discomfort because they realize you grew stronger in the silence they chose to ignore. And strength born this way is different. It does not boast. It does not demand. It simply exists with a depth that cannot be shaken. You carry this new presence not as a shield, but as a testament to everything you survived. There is something remarkable about the way your spirit carries itself now. Even on the days you still feel tired, you walk with a gravity that comes only from those who endured more than most will ever understand. You move with a quiet certainty that reveals how deeply you've learned to navigate darkness without losing your light. People can feel it when you enter a room. They sense the truth in your silence. They sense the story in your stillness. They sense the strength in every breath you take. They may not acknowledge it out loud, but they feel it in the way they pause, the way they observe, the way they try to reorient themselves around the reality they once ignored. And even though the world seems unsettled, you begin to feel a slow calm forming in the center of your chest. A calm not built on forgetting, but on understanding. You finally understand that what was done to you was never a reflection of your worth. It was never a measure of your potential. It never had the power to define the future you would choose for yourself. The confession simply pulled back the curtain and showed the world the truth that you already carried within you. Your worth was never in question. Your strength was never in question. Your heart was never the problem. You survived not because the world was kind, but because your spirit was unbreakable. And now the people who participated in your silence feel a shifting inside themselves too. They replay moments where they turned away, or doubted your voice, or allowed themselves to stay comfortable while you were fighting to breathe. They cannot sleep because the confession forces them to consider every decision they made, every moment they stayed distant when they should have stood beside you. But you are not here to judge them. You are here to rise. And the higher you rise, the more they will see their silence for what it was, a choice they cannot undo. Yet, you move forward anyway because growth is not dependent on their regret. Growth is your path and yours alone. You start noticing something unexpected. The burden of proving yourself is gone. The weight that once pressed against your spine every time someone doubted you is lifted. You no longer feel the need to explain your story to anyone. You no longer feel compelled to justify your strength. You no longer worry about whether people will believe your truth. The confession did not just reveal what was done. It revealed how powerful you were, even in the moments you felt weakest. This realization becomes a steady flame inside you, burning quietly, guiding you toward the future without fear. There are nights when you still sit with the memories, nights where the past feels close enough to touch. But even then, the memories do not hold the same sharpness they once did. They feel like echoes, faded but understood. You look at them with a kind of clarity you did not have before, because now you know what they meant. You were not broken. You were being shaped. You were not defeated. You were being prepared. And now that the truth stands on your side, those memories become part of the fuel that pushes you forward. They remind you how far you've come. They remind you that survival is not weakness, it is mastery. And as you breathe deeper into this new chapter, you begin to see the pieces of yourself coming back together in ways you did not expect. The parts of you that once felt lost begin to return. The quiet confidence, the hope you tucked away, the dreams you set aside, the belief that your life could be more than just endurance. These pieces rise from the shadows and reconnect with your spirit. You are rebuilding not from emptiness, but from truth. The people who once doubted you cannot deny your presence now. They cannot deny your strength. They cannot deny the truth that was spoken. The confession has forced them to acknowledge the reality you carried for so long. And even though you may not hear their apologies, even though they may never speak their regret aloud, their changed behavior speaks volumes. They move carefully around you, not out of fear, but out of recognition. They finally understand the weight of what they overlooked. But you are no longer defined by the silence of others. You are defined by the fire you kept alive through every dark moment. You are defined by the courage that held your heart together when the world looked away. You are defined by the willingness to keep going, even when the truth remained hidden. Now that it is exposed, you feel freer than you ever imagined. The world may be restless, unable to sleep under the weight of truth, but you finally feel something close to peace growing inside you. And now, a different understanding begins to rise within you, something steady and rare, something that comes only after years of carrying a truth alone. You realize the confession did not simply reveal the past, it redefined your future. It cleared a path you thought you would have to walk in shadows forever. It lifted a weight you believed you would quietly carry until your last breath. And now that this weight is gone, you feel a strange lightness, almost unfamiliar, a softness in the air that feels like the beginning of freedom. Not the loud kind, not the celebratory kind, but the quiet freedom that settles slowly into the heart after years of endurance. There is a part of you that expected the world to feel the same after the confession, but it doesn't. Little things feel different. The way people pause before speaking to you, the way they look at you with a mixture of realization and responsibility. The way conversations carry a new tenderness, as if everyone is afraid to say the wrong thing, as if they suddenly understand how delicate and profound your journey has been. They cannot fix the past, but they are finally acknowledging it, and sometimes acknowledgement is the beginning of healing. Not because it erases anything, but because it validates everything. You notice how the world now observes you carefully, not out of pity, but out of respect. They see someone who stood in truth even when it was painful, someone who held their story with grace even when the world wasn't ready to hear it. They see someone who embodies resilience in a way that cannot be taught or borrowed. It can only be lived. And you begin to recognize this in yourself. You begin to see the strength in your own reflection. You begin to understand the magnitude of what you survived. It wasn't small, it wasn't simple, and it certainly wasn't easy. Yet, you endured with a depth of courage that now speaks louder than any words ever could. And even though there are people who struggle with their own guilt, even though some now lie awake at night replaying moments they wish they handled differently, you start to see that their sleeplessness is simply the universe giving them the chance to see what you saw all.